Now, I must admit, when I first picked this up, I thought not another boring, fully electric small SUV. But after spending some time behind the wheel, I've figured out that it's actually got a fair bit of character and it's fun to drive. So for this video, we're going to do a bit of an off-road test, a rally test, so I can show you how much fun you can have behind the wheel. This is the new Jeep Avenger. It's Jeep's first fully electric vehicle. But there are some strange aspects to it. For starters, in Australia, it's available in 3 variants. This is the top spec Summit, and all of them are front wheel drive, just a single electric motor at the front. And to me, it just doesn't sit right that there's a front wheel drive Jeep. It just doesn't make sense. They've got such a heritage and history making off-road vehicles. The fact that they'd launch a front wheel drive model, it doesn't sit right with me. There are a number of driving modes inside as well, including sand and mud and so on, which to me is pretty ambitious. But we'll take it off-road and we'll see how it goes. It does have 18-inch alloy wheels. Wearing these definitely road-oriented, Goodyear efficient grip tyres. You've also got 199 millimeters of ground clearance, which is okay for this segment, I guess, but it's not class leading. But you do have good approach and departure angles. So the approach and departure angle is pretty much the angle between the tyre hitting the ground at the front there and then up to the furthest lowest point of the front bumper bar and rear bumper bar. But yeah, I think Jeep has slightly, missed an opportunity here. They could make this a really rugged SUV like a Suzuki Jimny or something, but with electric power, 4-wheel drive. You could even put in low range gearing or something like that. Now I know electric motors don't typically need low range gearing because all of the torque and power is available instantly anyway, but you could have a very tall sort of reduction gear just for off-roading and made this, a very unique proposition. But instead they've just made it a fairly vanilla style of electric SUV, except when you start driving it. So we'll go for a drive and I'll show you what I mean. Just quickly, inside it's quite modern and relatively practical. You've got some storage options around the place. I'm not a fan of the native touchscreen menu interface, but you can connect via Apple CarPlay and Android Auto anyway. And you've got shelving across the dash there, as well as a wireless phone charger down below, cup holders, and a center console box. Fully digital instrument cluster, and you can change the display and so on, get different readouts happening. This example's also got a massage seat. You do have to be careful getting in though, because this sill panel is quite steep and you have to step right up over it to get in. I've tripped up a few times. And in the back, it's pretty tight. This is a small vehicle. It does have a big transmission tunnel running through the middle, which is weird because everything is in the front under the bonnet. So there's no point in even having that there. There's no flip down armrest. Headroom is pretty good, but yeah, leg room starts to get a bit tight if you have a taller passenger in the front seats. No bottle holders in the doors either, but you do have a USB-C charging port at the back of the main console. Up at the back, I've had a few issues with this, well not issues, but just concerns with this tailgate. Sometimes you click the button and I don't know if you're standing too close, it won't actually work. It just sort of just does nothing. And then other times I've actually hit the close button, walked around to get in the car, and it's doing its thing by itself. And I've gone to drive off and it says boot open. So it didn't actually latch itself properly. Even though I was well clear of the tailgate, it just didn't fully pull itself closed. It does have a dual stage floor here, so you can put the charging cable underneath or knickknacks and they won't bounce all over the place. It's a little bit cumbersome to work. And then under the floor, you've got a tyre repair kit. It's not a huge boot, but for this class, it's not too bad. And then under the bonnet here, we've got what appears to be a petrol engine or a combustion engine. It's actually a fully electric motor producing 115 kilowatts and 260 Newton meters, which is not that high or not much output for a typical EV. They're usually about 160, seems to be the standard these days. But one of the great things about the Avenger and what I think helps to provide an enjoyable driving experience is the weight. This weighs around 1,530 kilograms, making it one of the lightest EVs currently on sale in Australia. It might even be the lightest. I've did some researching around. I couldn't think of anything that was even lighter, but yeah, it's definitely one of the lightest EVs on sale in Australia. So 115 kilowatts and 260 Newton meters is actually not too bad when you factor in the power to weight ratio. The 0 to 100 claim is 9 seconds flat. It feels faster than that, and I think it probably is pretty impressive from 0 to 60 kilometers an hour, or even 0 to 80 kilometers an hour. It's just in the top end it starts to sort of run out of puff. The top speed is actually limited to 150 kilometers an hour as well. But yeah, it's quite zippy off the mark. Now, part of the weight, or that low weight, is thanks to the small battery, 54 kilowatt hours. That's, yeah, compared with others, they're about 60 kilowatt hours or more. And that provides a range of 390 kilometers on the WLTP cycle, which is not too bad actually. If you consider this as a small city runaround, 390, you know, that'll get you around for the week basically, or even more, depending on how much driving you're doing. But if you're looking to do some touring or adventure off-roading and so on, 390 is a bit of a limitation. But being a small battery means it charges relatively quickly. The official stats aren't that good, like as in the max charging at DC and the max charging at AC power is not the best compared with other EVs out there. I charged this last night at my home charger, 22 kilowatt charger, and it maxed out at about 10.8 kilowatts. It took around 3 to 4 hours to take in a full charge from almost empty, not quite 0%, but maybe 20% or something like that. And that's, yeah, topped it all the way up to maximum charge. And it said on the dashboard, 400 kilometers. So if you turn the aircon off and all that sort of thing, which I think is annoying for EVs, I think, you know, you shouldn't have to do that to get maximum range. It should be, the rating should be with the aircon on really, because that's a pretty important function of a vehicle, especially in Australia when it's summer. But anyway, 400 kilometers, it's not too bad. All right, let's go for a drive. We'll hit the tarmac first, and I'll just give you a demonstration on how it goes. But mainly I want to hit the dirt to see how much fun you can have in this. Prices for this variant start from just over $60,000, which I think is a bit too high. This doesn't represent awesome value for money in my opinion, just in terms of the features and what you're getting, but also the powertrain, the range, and the, you know, no four-wheel drive and all that sort of thing. 60 grand is a fair bit. You can actually get something pretty good for that price. Like the Volvo EX30 is not far away from this. Cabin quality and refinement is also not very good for that price. I'm not sure if you can hear that, but this door trim is rattling away. I've got a rattle coming from the sunroof cover here, and then there's another rattle in the back as well. Adding to that, you know, you've got a lot of scratchy plastics, including on the upper section of the door trim, which is not that common for a vehicle of $60,000. Usually the top half of the door trim at least has some fake leather or some sort of rubbery surface, whereas this is full scratchy plastic all the way up the door trim. Even the except the armrest here, it does have a kind of a soft vinyl-y finish. Plastic across the dash as well, and this little join on the passenger side there. Yeah, it doesn't feel like a $60,000 vehicle. The steering wheel is really nice though, sports 3-spoke, feels good, it's leather wrapped, and the touchscreen and the digital interface does present crisp graphics, but not that much excitement. It's just sort of a bluey tone, black and blue, and yeah, the graphics aren't amazing, but they do their job. And as I said, the touchscreen, that's the main menu there. It's okay. You've got this little couple of buttons down here so you can jump to vehicle settings and whatnot, but you can switch to Android Auto as well, or Apple CarPlay, and that just takes over the screen anyway. Featuring a short wheelbase, this is very agile to drive, and the steering is actually almost too sensitive. It'll change direction very quickly, which yeah, makes it feel sportier than what this segment usually provides. The suspension is a little bit bouncy. It doesn't feel flimsy, but it's definitely wobbling a little bit. And there's a bit of pitching going on between hard braking and acceleration, body roll and so on, but we'll see how that translates on the dirt. Maybe there is a fair bit of wheel travel in the suspension, so you can absorb bumps and all that sort of thing. Visibility is okay. There's not much room between this touchscreen and the mirror there. I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, it just doesn't provide a full clear view compared with others in this class. And that mirror is kind of blocking the view there in the corner as well. If the mirror was lowered down a little bit or pushed a little bit back, the pillar is quite thick. So yeah, there's definitely a bit of a blind spot through there. Out the back, it's not too bad. You do have a big rear windscreen, but the C/D pillar is quite thick, so there is a bit of a blind spot there as well. But you do have a surround view camera on this example, and being such a short footprint, you know, you can see around you pretty easily. You don't have to worry about parking and so on. It's quite short. I do like the simplicity of the power and charge gauge there. So when you're braking, it just switches over to the charge area, and you've got a section for eco driving, and then full power, it'll show you that you're using maximum power, maximum energy. I do like that simplicity. And then on the other side, you've got a battery level gauge with percentage, but also the range listed down below as well. So some EVs, you can switch them around usually, but some EVs will only show you one, like the battery percentage or the range, whereas that's just giving you a very quick snapshot of what you've got left. In terms of performance, I'll put it into the sport mode. It does feel very punchy, as I said, so I'll slow down a little bit. Full power. Yeah, it picks up and zooms along in the front, the nose raises up and everything. It's quite exciting, and around corners, you put in full power, or near full power, and it's tugging at the steering wheel and so on. It feels good. And with that agility, yeah, you can really have some fun going down a tight mountain road, up a mountain road as well, because you've got instant power and torque. You don't have to worry about waiting for the engine to rev or waiting for a gearbox to change or anything like that. It's just instant. So it is pretty fun, in my opinion, compared with some petrol models in this specific class. For example, if this had a petrol engine, non-turbo with a CVT, that would be even more boring, I think. I think electric motor for this makes it more exciting. Before we hit the dirt, I just want to document that there seems to be a bit of a problem or issue with the cruise control system. Whenever I try to turn it on, it comes up with a message saying cruise control not available. There's a little spanner icon, as well as a message comes up on the touchscreen saying search to get directions to a nearby garage. Unless I've got it in some wrong setting or something, but I've tried turning on all the driver assist systems. They're all back on now, and it still doesn't seem to want to operate. Firstly, along a pretty ordinary dirt road, that springy suspension does really well to maintain comfort, but as well as absorb the bumps, absorb the impacts. So it's pretty good. I could drive along a dirt road like this for a long time. It's not rattling the whole cabin, and it's remaining pretty comfortable. Over the jump, now I've been over this in a Mitsubishi ASX, and it performed perfectly. It just went over and caught a little bit of air, then landed beautifully, whereas the back end of it definitely sort of bottomed out a bit. I wouldn't want to hit it any faster than that. And yeah, it means that it's probably not as heavy duty, as you might expect for a Jeep. Now I've got the traction control turned off, but you can't turn the stability control completely off, so we'll see how we go. In fact, the traction control comes back on at about 60 kilometers an hour. Over this little causeway, seems to be all right. Doesn't touch the bottom at all. Yeah, I think that springy suspension is helpful in that you can just go over a rough dirt road like this and not have to worry that it's going to be too bone jarring, but there's also just plenty of travel there as well. Seems to be good grip. The stability control is turned back on, or the traction control is turned back on. That's pretty slippery through there as well. As you can probably hear, that door is continuing to rattle around. I'll see if I can throw it in here. A little bit, but the stability control does come back on automatically to catch it. Over a dirt road like this with a bit of a mound in the middle, it seems to be going over with no problem. There's plenty of clearance. See if we can throw it into this corner. I'm going to have to slow down a bit to turn the stability control off. Yeah, the brakes are coming on automatically to try and keep me from sliding too far, which is, it's doing its job. It's stopping me sliding off the road basically, or trying to. But yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun. It feels plucky and enjoyable. Full power. It does seem to have a bit of traction as well. With this traction control turned on, it sorts itself out and provides good progression. But again, with that electric motor, you don't have to wait for the engine to rev. It's ready to go straight away. It's going to be interesting to see what happens to the world of off-road SUVs with electric technology coming in, because one of the biggest downsides I see is the battery is mounted under the floor. So the first thing you're going to hit is the battery, and we know how expensive batteries can get if you damage them, and just how important they are. You know, some of them, if you damage one cell, that's it, the whole battery's out. So I think there's going to be a lot of effort there to try and protect that battery, which is going to add weight, obviously. But as a first attempt, this little Jeep Avenger is a lot of fun, and it's surprisingly capable, even though it is front-wheel drive. Let's see if I can throw it in here again, just for fun. Yeah, so it was sliding for a moment there, but then eventually the back left brake grabbed the wheel, and then the front right, and just stabilized it. So it let me slide for a little bit there, but there was no opposite lock required or anything like that. But yeah, overall, I think Jeep has done an interesting job with this one. I'm still questioning why it didn't, you know, pull in some of its off-road heritage a bit more. But it does have the body for an off-roader, like the cladding around the bottom and the way that it's shaped like a bowl, kind of. There's no weird protruding bits of body that might snag on obstacles. Ground clearance is okay, and as I said, the approach and departure angles are quite good setup for off-roading. It's just that if it had, you know, slightly better tyres, I guess, and four-wheel drive, I think it would be a quite capable little package. All right, let's head out now to the performance test and see what it goes like.